Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Jobin, and you are listening to Time to Talk, a podcast for caregivers. This podcast is dedicated to helping family caregivers in Ontario. Through expert tips and resources, you will gain knowledge and validation for the ups and downs that come with caregiving. More importantly, you'll learn that you're not alone. It's so important to take this time for yourself. We're glad you're here. Today, we are joined by Brenda Davie and Suzanne McKenna from the Ontario Caregiver organization to talk about the OCO Caregiver coaching program. Brenda is one of the coaches for the program and has worked in both community and long-term care settings. She is a certified caregiver consultant with over 30 years of experience working with older adults and their families. Suzanne McKenna has previously been a guest on our show in season 2. She is a system navigator and caregiver for her son, who had a severe traumatic brain injury due to an accident at the age of 17. Suzanne and Brenda are both bilingual coaches and mentors. They are here to guide you through your caregiving journey. Brenda and Suzanne, thank you so much for being here with us. I know our caregivers are going to really learn a lot from what you both have to say and all of your experiences. And, that's really what we're trying to do here on Time to Talk. We want to create this space where Ontario caregivers can connect and share. And, I'm really hoping through our conversation today, we can learn more about the Ontario Caregiver organization's caregiver coaching program and how our caregivers can use the resources available to them. So I want to start with some statistics here. More than half of caregivers are stressed with the overall management of caregiving. So we're looking at about 58% say that. They're about 55% say they're stressed emotionally, and stress juggling work and family responsibilities, at least 55%. And that's based on a 2021 study. Is caregiver stress easily recognized? And when do we feel that caregivers need to realize that it's time to get help for their stress? Like, is this something that you understand while you're in it, or does it take someone else to point it out? How do we know where we're at on that spectrum?
Michelle, that's such a good question. And it's so true. We all become caregivers at one point in our lives. We all are going to be caregivers if you're not off the hook. So, and I'm sure Brenda agrees that it's not too difficult to see when you recognize the symptoms, and we've both been caregivers, so we know the symptoms we've had, and there's that overwhelming fatigue, and not just mental fatigue, physical fatigue, and you see some, maybe some pain that's all of a sudden starts to occur that wasn't there before, and that constant anxiety and not being able to even relax anymore. You can't concentrate, there's that feeling of helplessness and hopelessness that goes hand in hand. And of course, the isolation is a big one, from friends and sometimes even family. And of course, the sleep problems, because the worry, and just the loss of interest in things you love. You can see that they've lost their identity, and the list continues. Brenda, you probably have other examples as well.
Well, I'm just thinking of like the whole aspect we talk about self-care. And self-care is when caregivers get out of balance. And I think it's in the areas of, for example, we talked about the physical, like, for example, sleep, the emotional, but it goes even deeper than that. It can go spiritual, mental, relational. Some of the things that get missed out on, because again, they're so focused on caring for the person, they miss out on other relationships. And then there's also sometimes even the financial piece that can add some stress to this as well.
Yeah, so those signs are, you see them when you're talking to them, you feel it from them. And there's even just yesterday, there's that feeling of, I'm angry now all the time. I never used to be able to be like that. Like you sort of lost patience. So those are definite signs of burnout. And when you ask that question about when is it time for caregivers to seek help, oh my gosh, the sooner the better, because it's crucial in order for things to prevent from becoming worse. And then you want to improve the situation before it's worse, or the caregiver becomes ill. Because really, and ultimately, as we know, if we take care of the caregiver, we're taking care of the person, the care recipient at the same time. And we tend to push ourselves as a caregiver beyond our means. It's just, it affects your daily, and when you see it affecting your daily activities and you have to say that you have absolutely no time for self-care, it's time to seek help.
These are all great points that you brought up in terms of things that we can look at and recognize in terms of when we need to get help for ourselves in one way or another. And we'll talk about those options, of course. But, the becoming a caregiver is not necessarily, it pretty much happens to all of us at one point in our life, but it's not something that you always see coming, right? It is a situation that can happen fast and furiously. So what exactly is a caregiver coach, and what does a caregiver coach do?
Loaded question.
Let's get to it.
Very loaded.
Okay.
Go, Brenda, go.
Okay. I would say probably those things is just to meet the person where they're at. We help them with their caregiver challenges to help unpack that. And I liken it to like what a fitness trainer does to help them with their personal goals. A caregiver coach helps the caregiver with their wellness goals and their needs. And I think that's how I would describe it. Or a good listener, a good friend. We're a hope finders. There's lots of things that we're
cheerleaders.
Yeah. Yes.
That's great. All of the things that someone that's, on a journey of caregiving would potentially need. So that is good to know.
Yes, that's it.
This is also why the OCO caregiver coaching program is there. So tell us about it. Tell us why it was developed and your involvement in it.
Yeah, I would say it started off where there almost like there was a little bit of a gap. We had the lovely peer mentoring program where it's kind of like people are mentoring someone who has lived experience, and there's a reciprocity in that where they share with each other, and that seems to really help with that isolation piece and that loneliness piece. Like, oh, someone gets me and understands that. And then we had the other end of that where we had, like, for example, the scale counseling program where they're helping people with their past challenges. But the piece in between was like, how can we help someone with their current challenges? How can we help them set goals in what they're experiencing today? So when they recognized that they had that gap, they set about to start a pilot program. So the pilot program was launched because they found that there were people that were they kind of did fit into the peer mentoring, or they had just finished the counseling, but they still felt they needed something, an added bonus to that. So this is where the coaching program came in, is that in this pilot project, they, how would you say that? They assessed different caregivers' needs, and they thought, let's see if it's going to be a match for this program. So in 2021, both Suzanne and I were approached to see if we wanted to participate in this program. So things were set up in terms of the outline of the program, and then it's kind of like, here's your first caregiver, go. And then as we started to see, as we were going ahead, and even afterwards, because the person that was involved, they did a pre-assessment to see where they were at in their caregiver well-being. And so a high end would be a number like a 7 or 8, which would mean not coping very well, where an excellent would be 0, or well-being would be 1 to 2. So we started to see, oh my goodness, after 6 sessions that they were given, they were able to see that the progress, that they actually were meeting goals, their stress was starting to be reduced. And then in the following year, it became more of let's try this again for another year. And so they received, set that program up. And now there's even a coaching page on the site where people can self-refer. And then again, the team lead will take a look at the caregivers who are coming in, and then the coach supports that person through their journey. But to see, and we'll probably talk about that, some of the successes of the well-being that has come out of the coaching experience.
Well, I think what's important to highlight is, and I think we find this time and time again, having our conversations on the podcast, that there are experiences for caregivers that are similar across the board, and then they're very different experiences. It's not one size fit all. So how do you bridge the gap between experiences to create that sort of mutual trust and conversation that is helpful?
I think
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll touch on that, and then Suzanne, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, sure.
I think they're similar in the sense that there's universal needs when you're a caregiver. It's kind of like, I need to talk to somebody. I need to have someone who I feel so isolated. So that's common. And often they're caring for a person who has a medical condition, a health issue, or a disability. So that seems to be something that there's some kind of a situation or condition that's related. So that's kind of like where it's the playing field is leveled in that sense. But when it comes to some of the unique parts, it's kind of like the differences in their needs is that someone their need might be navigating, or some of the difference might be someone to talk to, or remind them of how to build up their resiliency skills that they once had, or even looking at how to rethink or reframe how they look at their situation. So that's where it's individual, but there are some of those similarities that we talked about. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then bridging that gap starts right from the beginning when they call the 1-800 number, and then the OCO staff that are there, the intake staff, they have their process of intake to see what their needs are, because we get a nice profile, receive a nice profile, so that it's not totally brand new person. We have some information on that individual. So, and then and the caregivers, that gap again, the caregivers are reassured of, we get I guess what I'm trying to say is, our first session again, the caregiver is reassured of our experience. So that gap again, so we work together. The minute you say we're going to work together, you just get that sigh of relief on the phone. Like it feels good for both of us, because we are caregivers too. So we feel that, right, Brenda? Like it's amazing. And it's very rewarding that way, because we know, and they know we get it. They feel it from us, just from when we reassure them, and that they're not alone, and we're going to tackle it together. And these words alone, it just begins the process of their empowerment, okay, to make those necessary changes in their role as a caregiver. So it's a very beautiful thing to feel and see. Sometimes we're on phone or video, so depending when we're meeting with each caregiver. So that's where the gap is sort of bridged right from the get-go of the call.
And it addresses that primary thing that comes up over and over again, the feeling of isolation, the feeling that nobody else understands, the feeling of needing to be validated. I think all of those three things are met immediately. So let's talk about how the caregiver coaching program addresses mental health and caregiving. So, and maybe what resources specifically and support the program offers for that.
Well, it's all about caregivers and their mental health. Their well-being is basically their mental health, right? And we work with the caregivers in every way to improve their mental health. So as a coach, we're there to help them unpack those complex challenges through those goal-setting strategies, and then we provide those resources. And these could be the resources are multiple, like they could be specific webinars. There's lots of great webinars on the OCO website that address these, that suit their needs. And then for example, if sleep is challenging, then there's a webinar that could be suggested, such as how to improve your sleep habits. So those are just a snippet of resources. Brenda, maybe you have more to add to that.
Yes, one of the other resources as well is the health line.
Yes,
in different home and community care support services. That's another resource that we can ask people to look for specifics. The other thing we find out is that where the person basically lives by their were given their postal code, so that we can also not only use the OCO resources such as the webinars, the blogs, and the different programs, but we can also resource and access what is in your community. So we can also do that and help the person, because sometimes in their own community, they may not be aware that, oh, there is actually this type of support that we were unaware of. So that's a big piece, directing people. So using those outside resources from their community is also a place that we tap into for resources.
Do you need more resources to help you on your caregiving journey? The Ontario Caregiver Organization Online Learning Library is here to help. With 24/7 access to quality education and training, our learning library is the perfect way to upskill and gain the knowledge you need to provide the best possible care. With an abundance of online courses, videos, and other training materials, you can learn at your own pace and on your own time. Get started today and unlock the potential of becoming a more confident caregiver with the Ontario Caregiver Organization Online Learning Library. Visit ontariocaregiver.ca for more information. That's ontariocaregiver.ca for more information.
Yeah, just even, for example, like just in your own community, they don't realize how they can tap into simple things like the Lions Club, like all the different community organizations, their church, if they're involved in their church. It's amazing what you can, and then there's like friendly visiting, people volunteer, there's loads of volunteers. So you have to touch on everything and you find out what works for that particular person. You really have to be tuned into their needs and be gentle. And that's the whole thing about being gentle with yourself, stressing that to them.
I'm just going to add that the other thing too, that Suzanne and I both have our own repertoire of personal resources when it comes to that mental health piece, like mindfulness exercises, self-soothing exercises. So we have our own repertoire that we share with each other. So that's where it makes it unique and individual to the person, because one particular exercise or reading may not be suitable from one caregiver to the next. So that's the other part about tailoring the program to fit the individual.
That's go ahead.
You know, yeah, and for example, like there's so evidence-based to have a gratitude journal, but not everybody is into gratitude journals. Like even myself, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can write all my stuff and spill it out on paper, but I can say it out loud. And that's what sometimes works for somebody else. They wake up in the morning, hey, I'm so happy, I'm alive this morning, whatever it may be. It's just so important to tailor it to their needs, and so that they can be gentle with themselves and not think, I have to achieve this. This is my protocol. It's never about that. It's whatever works. And sometimes it's just sitting in a lazy boy chair and just closing your eyes. Doesn't have to be a big, long protocol of stuff you have to do.
I love that personal, individualized aspect that you're bringing up, because I think, again, that helps people feel seen. And I can imagine that also helping people, untangle what resources might be available to them. There's a huge amount of overwhelm, right? When it's helping people sort of, untangle things, look at what's available to them. Maybe you're thinking of something that they hadn't thought of before. And again, it's so incredibly generous that you're both using your experiences to help other people have a less bumpy road, because the road can be very bumpy. And I think, but again, it's something that we're pretty much, most of us are going to go through. So it's such a great thing to know that this resource is there. From your own experiences and also from your experiences as a coach, what do you think the biggest challenge is for caregivers today?
Well, I've noticed that sometimes uncertainty, fear of the future seems to be a big thing. It's kind of like, and again, one of the things about developing resiliency is making sure that the person can stay in today. So for me, uncertainty is one I hear a lot. I don't know if I could go through this. I don't. So there's a lot of, I would say the word uncertainty comes to mind when I'm thinking of the challenge. Yeah.
And Brenda, you must agree with me too, is like the isolation and feeling lonely. You can have 100 people around you. And I can remember I went through this myself. The isolation, you have lots of help maybe at the beginning, and then everybody branches off. And the friends you had, you can't, they don't get it, and you don't want to burden them, and you can tell they're not interested in what you're going through, the worst part of your life, or you're just going through so much, and you don't have that support. So you feel very lonely, that loneliness, and then with that comes the loss of friendships. Like you lose touch with your friends because basically you don't have time at all. And then they're afraid to call you sometimes because they know what you're going to talk about, and then you're so tired, you just don't have that energy and the same input with your friends that you did before. So you lose friendships. So I find they don't come out and tell you, caregivers, oh, I'm really lonely, but then when you start talking to them, you can tell that they just kind of sometimes grasp onto you because they know you get it, they can share, and they're not afraid to spill their hearts out.
Yeah, and I think I'd want to add to that as well, is that it's not only the isolation, but the fact that perhaps even the person they're caring for, their role as a caregiver is unappreciated or unacknowledged. So that's another big piece. And one of the things I think Suzanne really and I enjoy doing is that there's this heaviness that comes with this as well. And so during our we always could talk about our sessions, or we have a little debrief, and we say humor is one of those things that has helped to alleviate some of those bigger challenges. Is that, like, we might say something or laugh at our situations. Next thing you know, you're really laughing, belly laughing with some of the folks, and they were like, I haven't laughed in so long. So
yeah. That's incredibly therapeutic. And I can imagine, I mean, hopefully now that we're in a place where people can also have maybe more in-person contact with people and support groups and things like that. I mean, it's great that we have virtual options and over the phone, but hopefully the isolation gets a little bit better at this point. But I can only imagine, like you both touched on, and especially Suzanne saying, maybe you're not really surrounded by a network that really fully understands or can connect with what you're going through. So it's great to have an ear, someone that understands the situation. In terms of the future, so it sounds like this is a program that is incredibly needed, and it's great that you're both bringing your experiences to it. Are you hoping to have more coaches join the team and that way be able to provide more resources to the caregivers that need help?
I'm going to say yes to that, but I'm going to also say that one of the things that we do at the end of our sessions is that we leave the person with one of the resources, which is a progress plan that we address some of and that's the part we make that. So they have that. And a lot of times we help bridge them into programs they may have that they may not be aware of through the OCO. So one of the things would be like the scale program, or to like you mentioned, those support groups, so that they can continue not feeling so isolated. There is hope in this program to grow, because like I said, they've added a coaching page to that. And like right now, we are 2 coaches, and the need is great in the province. So yes, if this program is definitely going to grow, as well as I believe the resources that will be provided to this program. The other thing that we're doing as is not going this alone. We're also have been talking to other provincial caregiver organizations to see what is working for you, and we've been sharing those kind of resources, which is fabulous, because it can help with the outline of the program, the structure of the program. We share tools, so that's only going to enhance and help grow our program. So yep, the need is there.
Okay, so but hopefully, maybe if there are people out there that are interested in lending their time and experience to this, that they could sort of become part of the coaching program as well.
Yes, it's like any opportunity where, like, if there's a call for coaches, they will do their due process for the coaching, and look at their experience and their lived experience as well as their professional experience. Yeah,
great. So you are both caregivers, or have been caregivers, and coaches as well. Do you get a sense from the people that you speak to that your lived experience resonates with them, with the caregivers that you are coaching?
Absolutely. They feel it, like I mentioned before, they feel it from us, Michelle, right at the beginning, they know that we get it. And then also they are sent our profile. So the profile outlines our past experience and, as a caregiver, et cetera. So, and you can feel, like I said, the sense of relief when you talk and I tell them nothing will surprise me, because again, like nothing I know, just nothing will surprise me. So feel very comfortable to share. And in my experience as a primary caregiver for my son, and he has a long-term injury from a catastrophic brain injury, and that is, his whole being is a physical, mental health, etc. It's like a marathon you're on. I understand. It's like running a marathon. So, so my guidance for caregivers and that important message of ensuring that they take care of themselves and know where to turn for help. And I'm just kudos to them right from the beginning. You called us. Yes, you're on. That's the first positive step on your journey. We're going to work together. So yeah, our experience, it's absolutely. The answer is yes.
Yes. And even after the pilot project, one of the questions was, how important was it for you to have a coach with lived experience?
Yeah.
And 60% answered that it was very important.
I can imagine.
That speaks to that question as well.
Well, Brenda, you had touched on the fact that you've had some great examples of success stories from the program. Is there anything in particular you'd like to highlight?
Yes, it's the return of people picking up things that they left that they love to do. So for some folks, it's kind of like, oh, they've returned to music, which they have not done. So if they played an instrument, they return to picking up that instrument with the encouragement of the coach. And we, and again, myself and Suzanne have been gifted with, someone says, oh, here, they've played a piece of music for us because we were encouraging them. Or someone has picked up a hobby they have put down, like, oh, I used to do photography, but I don't know if I can do that anymore. And they've picked up that habit. Or even something as simple as, I haven't had a cup of tea for myself. And they also, they start creating and putting it in their schedule as if they book a doctor's appointment. They have these, they're like, Brenda, I put it in. I have it every Thursday morning. It's just mine. It's my sacred space. It's untouchable. And there's just so many stories about how they start getting back into life and meeting those needs, whether they're physically, relationally, they're starting going out with girlfriends or meeting up with their golf buddies again, which they have not done. So we start seeing them taking back interest in their own lives other than the focus of just, caregiver. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And you get a lot of times you get an email back and then just overwhelming things like, now I feel safe with my emotions. Now I know what it's like to have fun, because so many times they said, what do you want to do to have fun? Just have fun, things to do for fun. And that it's just the uplifting, the comments, and one lady just, she said, Suzanne, I'm so excited that you even, my sewing room, it was changed into more of I kept talking about these emotional escape rooms and a place to go to just to relax and with your emotions. And that was she was just thrilled. And so many have been thrilled with that option. So yeah, they're just changing their way of life. And you see that you can still be happy caregiving. Bottom line, you can still be happy caregiving.
I think a lot of the things that I'm hearing both of you say is that, and based on my conversations before, one of the things that can happen, it may not be universal, but in being a caregiver, people can sort of lose a sense of themselves. So it sounds like a lot of the things that, it seems it's a little thing, but it's a big thing. Getting back to making a cup of tea for yourself, getting back to playing music, getting back to the things you love, laughing, going out with your friends. It's helping people find themselves in this process, and also just sort of validating that it's okay to take those times for yourself. And ultimately, it's going to be better for everyone. That's sort of what I'm hearing comes out a lot in some of the success stories.
Yes, and I think the other thing too is that we address small wins. Each small win in increments will add up to, next thing you know, you're like whistling and you don't know why you're whistling. Like just as
Yeah.
The idea as well is that there can be a lot of loss, like we talked about, because losing friends, losing sense of self. And that's part of let's help build some of those losses or those gaps with a small recommended activity. And then they come back, I did it. And you just cheer that person on to say, like, great, you did you completed a little small piece of your progress plan. Fantastic. And that truly is, because having been caregivers, we realize how valuable time is, and giving a little bit back to yourself.
For people that might not know, for caregivers that might not know about this program but are interested in it, what advice can you give them at this point in terms of seeking help?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question, Michelle. You have to reach out as soon as possible. And if you don't know about it, it's much more advertised than ever, right, Brenda? Like it's like back in the day when I was, when I was a caregiver at the beginning, OCO didn't even exist and it was never offered. Now there's many discharge planning plans that have OCO implemented into it. Like with the Champlain Lynn, that was one of the first things I did with brain injury. I made sure that from the rehab center, they're sent home, but the OCO website was included. So caregivers are also taken care of when they're discharged. So the advertising and the awareness of Ontario Caregivers Organization is much more it's much more advertised now. And if you recognize any signs of burnout, and you feel like you're as soon as they are, as a caregiver, if you're aware that you are a caregiver, you know what, just call just to make sure you're okay. Because they walk you through it. There's a help. All you have to call is the 1-800 number and just say, I'm going through this, I'm doing this. And then they can pick up right away too. They're very trained individuals on the Ontario Caregivers Organization. And don't be afraid to ask for help. And just thinking that you can do this all on your own is just can make you depressed, and then you start feeling overwhelmed. And just keep in mind, as a caregiver, you're caring for yourself, you're also caring for the care recipient. So it's, this is what's very important. Your health is so important. So that's what unless Brenda, you have something to add there.
I just heard a word of mouth, because after they finish the program, they're like, oh, I know my friends who are, and they just want to share their experience with other folks. But like Suzanne says, there's the helpline, there's the OCO webpage. And I think from the top of the organization to frontline folks, it's all about advocating for the caregiver and letting them know what services are available, what programs can help serve them. And the coaching program is one of them, that through the helpline, they can find more information about.
Very importantly, we want our listeners to know how they can find out more about the Ontario Caregiver Organization coaching program and how they can potentially join. So where should we direct everyone to find you?
I would say the ontariocaregiver.ca website would be a very great place to start, because you'll have the numbers there, you'll have who the people are in the programs. So that would probably be a place to start, definitely.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Ladies, it was absolutely wonderful. Brenda, it was wonderful to meet you. Wonderful to chat with you today. Suzanne, lovely to speak with you again. It's such a wonderful, generous thing that you're both doing, bringing your lived experience as caregivers, not only to us here on the podcast today, but also as part of the OCO coaching program, so that caregivers can feel less alone and maybe, again, kind of smooth out some of the bumps that are along the road potentially. So it was wonderful to chat with you both today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. You can access more details about support services on our website, ontariocaregiver.ca. Until next time, I'm Michelle Jobin, and you have been listening to Time to Talk, a podcast for caregivers. We hope you have a wonderful day.